Welcome to lecture 2. So in this lecture we'll talk about what halogens do in terms of whether they are an activating group or a deactivating group, and we'll see the determining the directing effects of a substituent and what happens when you have multiple substituents, and we'll see some synthesis strategies, and finally we'll see the different form of substitution, which is nucleophilic substitution, and we'll also give a look at elimination and addition reactions, and we'll also finally see identifying the mechanism of a aromatic substitution reaction. So let's start with halogens. So halogens have some peculiar behavior because they can be both electron withdrawing group as well as electron donating group. Because they can be electron donating groups, we know that all electron donating groups are ortho-para directors and all electron withdrawing groups are meta-directors except for the halogens. Why is that the case? Because halogens can withdraw electrons by induction, which means that they can be deactivating, as well as they can donate electrons through resonance, which means they can be activating. So because they have both characters, we can consider halogens as weak deactivators, because they are in the realm between activators and deactivators, so they can be classified as weak deactivators. So we know that activators are ones that can direct towards ortho and para positions, and deactivators are the ones that drive towards meta positions, but weak deactivators can also have the same behavior as that of activators. So halogens withdraw electrons by induction. So what happens here is they have an inductive effect which pushes them upwards. The electrons are always trying to withdraw towards the chlorine. Now they can also donate electrons through resonance. If you take resonance of the electrons, so the electron pair goes here, the double bond becomes a lone pair. So now this can resonate continuously and cause it to create multiple sigma structures, where you would see most of the positive charge pointed towards chlorine, so which means that it's a stable structure. So which means that they end up becoming ortho-para directing structures. So halogens donate electrons through resonance. Because they can donate electrons through resonance, they behave similar to that of nitrogen dioxide, nitronium ion, NO2. So they can also have the same effect as that of nitronium, because the structure is not the problem. Here is that when you have nitration that you add after chlorination, the nitration would rather be stable in ortho and para positions. Notice that in only these two positions is where the resonance gives the positive charge to chlorine. So which means these are the most stable structures. So when you take the common effects that we see, halogens always try to direct towards ortho or para. So this is the only exception in all of the groups when you add multiple positions. So next let's summarize all the activators, deactivators. So just like acids, we can also classify activators and deactivators into three parts: strong, moderate and weak. Strong activators are always the ones that are directing to ortho or para positions. So they are alcohol groups, OH groups, oxide ion, amine, and substituted amines can also are molecules that are strong activators. What are moderate activators? Moderate activators are acyl ions, amines with acyl groups, and substituted amines with acyl groups, and ketonic groups. So these are groups that are moderate activators. So remember that whenever you see an electron pair right next to the double bond, that's when you can note that if you have an atom that can resonate right next to the double bond, you know that it's an activator. So what are weak activators? Most of the groups that we generally see, where you see carbon groups, are generally weak activators. So any carbon group that's attached is generally a weak activator, and still ortho or para directing. Next let's talk about strong deactivators. Deactivators are one we already know, nitronium. Second is tri-substituted ammonium ion, and carbons with halogens can be strong deactivators. Moderate deactivators are double bonded oxygen with carbon, so carbonyl groups whenever you see a carbonyl group adjacent onto the in the place of the aromatic proton, you see that those are structures with moderate deactivation. The next one is sulfonate group and cyano group. So sulfonate and cyano are also moderate deactivators. Both are also meta-directing. Let's come to the last exceptional part, which is weak deactivators. Weak deactivators are chlorine, bromine and iodine. All of these are either ortho or para-directing. So remember that the halides are the only deactivating group that are ortho or para-directing. So remember the difference here is when you have oxygen right next to the structure, when you have the compound right next to the structure in the place of the aromatic proton, those are activators. If you have a carbonyl group, then those are deactivators. So that's the only differentiations here. And when you have a nitronium ion, so that's a deactivator, as well as an ammonium ion. Remember that ammonia is a strong activator, but ammonium is a strong deactivator when you have a positive charge. And the only exception are the weak deactivators, which are the halogens. So activators and deactivators, we can summarize it in table in simple measures. So let me show you the table. So whenever you see a problem, use this table as a reference to know whether they are an activator, deactivator, whether they are a strong activator, moderate activator or weak activator, and whether they are deactivators. So remember that only activators and the weak deactivators are ortho-para-directing. Moderate deactivators and strong deactivators are meta-directing compounds. So this is how you can justify. Now, how do you determine the directing effects of the substituent is for the compound below. So let's try and determine whether the group is electron withdrawing or donating. So let's also try to determine if it is activating or deactivating and how strongly or weakly is it activating or deactivating. And finally, we have to determine whether it is an ortho, para or meta-directing group. So notice the lone pair on the nitrogen. So which means that this lone pair has the capacity of being donated into the ring, making this group an activator. Because notice that it already has 3 bonds, so the only thing left is it has 2 lone pairs. Because the 2 lone pairs are present, it can have the effect where it can try and donate the lone pair onto the structure. But because the oxygen is present right next to it, it can become a weak one. So because the activator is generally weak, notice that it is tri-substituted. So because it's substituted on all sides, so it is still an activator, but it's a weak activator because the lone pair is also in resonance with the carbonyl group. So because it is an activator and it's always going to be ortho or para-directing. So the compound will end up adding the structure either in the ortho position or the para position. So these are the only 3 positions where it will add. It will not go into the meta position. So first things first, remember where ortho is, where para is and where meta is. Next, let's talk about multiple substituents. So before we go into that, let's try and so I'll give you some more examples so that you have something to practice. Let's try another problem. So consider this structure here. So they're asking you to predict whether this aromatic ring is activated or deactivated, and they're asking you to predict the strength of activation or deactivation. Notice that we are only concerned with the nitrogen group. We are not concerned with anything else. So which means that notice the nitrogen here is di-substituted. So it's similar to the structure that we saw before, which is nitrogen with 2 R's. Right, so this is a strong activator. But the problem here is, notice the nitrogen here has a lone pair and this also has a lone pair. So which means that these 2 lone pairs can cause resonance in such a way where this can go here and this can create a resonance structure here, or this can come here, or the other structure can also go. So the other structure can also come here while this can go here. So which means that it can donate on both sides. So it is an activator. So first it's an activator, because it has resonance on both sides, it's a weak activator. Now they are asking you to predict the directing effects of the group. So where will it direct? Because it's a weak activator, remember that it's still an activator, so which means that it's going to be ortho-para directing structure. So either you're going to get a structure in the ortho positions or in the para positions. Remember that this structure is not aromatic, so we do not need to consider this structure. So it's going to be an ortho-para directing structure. So let me give you some more problems for you to try. So try these problems and make sure to first recognize where the structures are and whether it can undergo resonance with any other structures as well. So for example, the first structure here is a nitronium group. Nitronium groups are strong deactivators. So which means this is a meta-directing structure. So in this way, try the others as well. So pause the video right here and try these problems. So next, let's talk about multiple substituents. So the directing effects of all the substituents attached to the ring must be considered in the electrophilic aromatic substitution. So for example, let's say in this structure, notice that there is a CH3 groups and an NO2 group. CH3 group is an ortho-para directing group and NO2 group is a meta-directing group. So if it wants to be in para position, there is no para position, so para is gone. So the only one left now is the ortho position. So if you look at two ortho positions, so either it can be here or here. For what is ortho for methyl group is meta for nitro group, so that's why bromine will attach itself onto the position where it is. Because notice that for nitro, for this it is meta, for this it's ortho. So because it cannot go in para direction, so that's why it attaches to ortho, because the more for both of them, that's the common space. It can attach onto para, but for nitro the directing substituent is meta, so it cannot attach on itself there. So that's why it attaches onto that particular position. So when you are directing, when you are using this reactions, when you have multiple substituents, you have to consider the directing effects of both the substituents so that we understand the structure. So in the same way, let's try another one. So let's say we have an OH group and a CH3 group. An OH group is a strong ortho-para director and CH3 is a weak ortho-para director. So which means that here, if the groups that we use direct to different carbons, the stronger group will dominate the directing effect. So which one is stronger here? So this one is stronger. It cannot go into the para group because it can cause steric hindrance. So it will try to, so para is gone. So which means that it's going to end up causing the structure to gently create more ortho group. So it's going to end up becoming an ortho group. So we do not consider when you are using the third substituent, we do not consider the directing effect of the substituent. We consider the directing effect of the substituents that are already on the compound. So that is the main way we can recognize these multiple substituents. So let's try another example. So one another effect that can cause this is steric hindrance must also be considered when you have more than one product is possible, right? So using these guidelines, for if you have a mono substituted ring, the para product typically dominates due to sterics. So if you have one single substitution, it will always choose para instead of ortho because of steric hindrance. It does not want to be so close so that it's constrained. So it always chooses to be in the para position. So that's why the para position is going to be the major product and the ortho position is going to be the minor product. So the ortho and para. The second, if you have 1,4 di-substituted rings already, if you have positions that are already filled in para positions, then the substitution will occur less sterically hindered side. So whichever one is the less sterically hindered is whichever place is much more easier for the compound to attach. Notice that this is a large compound, so rather than attaching to this ortho group, rather it would nitro will attach to this ortho group. The reason mainly is because it's going to attach itself as far away from the structure as possible. So when you have multiple substituents, when you have especially you have 1,4 di-substituted rings. So this is basically a para ring. So when you have a para structure, it will attach to the less sterically hindered side. So for example here it's less sterically hindered. So that's going to be the major product and the more sterically hindered side will become the minor product. Next, when you have 3 di-substituted rings, Substitution typically does not occur between the existing substituents. So when you have the substituents that are in 1,3 positions, the major and minor products will always try to occur away from the original structure rather than between the structures. So remember that this position will never be occupied between the two structures because of steric hindrance. So it will either attach itself onto the positions, parapositions or orthopositions. So it cannot attach itself to the structures where it wants to be. So the only case where if you see 1,3 di-substituted rings, there are only two ways where nitro can attach. Either it can attach to the ortho position of this carbon, or the ortho position of this carbon. So it can be attached on either sides. So but never attaches itself in the middle between the two substituents. So this is the idea behind the substitutions when you have 1,3 di-substituted ring. So let me review it again. When you have a mono substitution, it chooses para, whichever is close, whichever is far away from the structure. And if you have a structure with 1,4 di-substituted, it always chooses the less sterically hindered side. If it is 1,3 di-substituted, it will not undergo substitution, which means that it never comes through directly in the middle of the structure. It would rather come in the outside of the structure. So let's solve some examples of this. So in this structure, they are asking us which position is most likely to undergo the electrophilic aromatic substitution. So in this structure, let's look at each of the groups that are present here. So number 1 is CH3, number 2 is OH, and number 3 is NO2. So we know that CH3 is a weak activator because it's just a carbon group. OH is a strong activator. If you remember that oxygen is right next to the structure. And we know that NO2 is a strong deactivator. So the strong deactivator likes to push towards meta position. The weak activator likes ortho or para. The strong activator here also writes ortho or para. Now let's look at the structure and let's see what are the meta positions that are possible. So let me write the meta positions in red. So for NO2, the meta positions are either this or this. So this cannot be occupied because it's already hindered. So you cannot have the second position. So this is the position that is meta for NO2. So this is the one for NO2, suitable position. For OH, the two positions are either this or either this or either this. So you cannot have the last one. So that's why the one where NO2 is, it does not occur there because of steric hindrance. One where CH3 is, it does not occur there as well. So which means that for this also, this is the structure. Next, for CH3, the ortho position is either this position or para position is this position. Because it's close to NO2, so now for both OH and NO2, this is the structure that, so this is the one that's most common for both of them. So the one that dominates the directing effect is the one that is strong. So both are strong here, OH and NO2 are strong. So those two will direct the consequences or the directing effect of the compound. So now we can say that, so this is the position where it is most stable for electrophilic aromatic substitution. So this is the position most likely to undergo electrophilic aromatic substitution. So this is how we can determine when you have a larger structure. So let me give you some more examples for you to practice. So pause the video right here and try to solve these problems. So remember that each of them you have to determine one. The first thing to determine is whether it's a weak activator or deactivator. The second thing you want to determine is whether it is a strong, moderate or weak activator or deactivator. And finally choose the common space among strong ones. So for the strong ones, choose the common space. The common space becomes the position where it's most likely to be aromatically substituted. So pause the video right here and try to solve these problems. So let's go on to the next one, blocking groups. So for example, how do you force a substituent to add to a particular position, either ortho or para positions instead of para position? For example, you wanted an exact compound where the group that you are substituting should always be pointed towards ortho and not para. How would you do that? The only way you can do that is by using a blocking group. So one way you can do that is, first you take the structure, you install the blocking group. Once you install the blocking group, it does not go towards para because it's stuck there. So it will either choose ortho or para, so it can end up choosing the para group. And finally remove the blocking group. If you remember this, where you can easily remove the blocking group, we talk about sulfonation. Sulfonation is the one that, since it is reversible, it's the most commonly used blocking agent. So when you use sulfonation, you can block the para position and you can force bromination to occur at ortho position if you have a sterically hindered site where it's generally going to form a minor product without the blocking agent. So you want it to form be the major product, then you have to put a blocking agent there which can cause it to occur. So one way we can do that is when you use concentrated fuming H2SO4, causes it to create sulfonation, and when you dilute it, it creates the desulfonation. So these are the 10 different groups that can be installed on a benzene ring using the reactions that we have covered so far. First one is bromine. You can use bromination. Chlorine, using chlorination. Nitration. Sulfonation. You can add Friedel-Crafts alkylation, acylation, and when you reduce nitration, you can create amine groups. When you use excess NBS, you can create a compound structure of bromines on the carbon. If you use KMNO4 and NaOH, you can oxidize it to create the common structure, which is to create benzoic acid. If you reduce an acyl group, you can create an alkyl group. So these are the ones that we have seen till now. So the synthesis of di-substituted benzene rings requires Schaefer analysis of the directing effects to decide which group to install first. So for example, group needs to be meta, so the first group installed must be a meta director. So if you want the first group to be a meta, so then first install a meta director. So bromine here is an ortho-para director, but NO2 is a meta director, so the nitro group must be added first here, because bromine will always direct the next one. Bromine will always be directed to the meta position, so that's the reason why we use nitration first and then do bromination. So when you are going from meta director to an ortho-para director, the common way we can do that is by using zinc. For example, we can convert NO2 to NH2 to create a meta director into an ortho-para director. When you have an ortho-para director, which is CH3, if you oxidize it, you get benzoic acid, which is a meta director. When you have a meta director, which is a carbonyl group, when you reduce it, you can create an ortho-para director, which can create a carbon group. When you have an ortho-para director, excess bromination can cause it to become a meta director. And these are the functional group conversions that can change the directing effect of the substituents that you are using. Next, let's talk about additional considerations. So additional consideration is necessary when you have one of the groups that requires more than one step to install. For example, the group here needs to be meta, but both of these substituents are ortho-para directors. Notice that chloro and amino are both substituents that are ortho-para directors. So the first thing that we do is, rather than doing directly amine, we would rather take the benzene group and nitration, so undergo nitration. And once you do nitration, we know that nitration allows it to be a meta director, and then under reduction causes an ortho-para director. So what we do in this middle of the process is, first we nitrate, second we chlorinate, and third we reduce, finally to create the meta substituents, provided both are ortho-para directors. So this is one way of using synthesis strategies to create a specific structure. So what are the other limitations that can be done? So other limitations should also be considered when you are planning synthesis. So nitration cannot be done on a ring that is already containing an amino group, because it can be oxidized with HNO3. The amino group will become NO2 again and not NH2, and not undergo amination again. So next one is, Friedel-Crafts reactions do not work on a ring that is moderately or strongly deactivated. So when you have a moderate or a strong deactivator, this alkylation will not occur. both alkylation and acylation will not occur because it is already substituted having a compound there. So try the problem here. So remember that you have two groups that are being attached on ortho positions right next to each other. So try to synthesize it and see if you can synthesize the compound. So one way you could start is you could start by using the chart that we discussed. So you could start by using this chart here and look for all the reactions that are possibly done, provided we know that each of these groups that we are using has a specific characteristic. For example, COOH is a meta-directing group. So if you don't want it to be a meta-directing group, so what are the procedures that we want to do first? So for example, let's take a simple example of the benzene ring here. So what are the first reaction that we want to do? So we want it to be an ortho-directing group, so which means that the first thing that you want to do is combine it with an ortho-directing group. So one way we can do that is first by doing Friedel-Crafts acylation. So Friedel-Crafts acylation, for example, here I can start with CH3 and AlCl3. First Friedel-Crafts acylation, that creates a group with CH3 on the top. And once we have CH3, next notice that CH3 is a moderate activate, a weak activator, so which means that you need it to be on ortho position, so which means now you are going to do sulfonation. So fuming H2SO4 causes it to create. So let me write it in a different slide. So first we added the CH3 group, right? So next we want to add, started with benzene. So we added CH3 in presence of AlCl3. So that creates Friedel-Crafts acylation. So that ends up creating it to form the structure. So now we have this structure here. With this structure, now next we want to block the para position because you don't want the structure to go to the para position. So what we do now is we use fuming H2SO4. So what will that do now? It blocks the para position. So it blocks the para position. It creates SO3H. Now once you block the para position, so because CH3 is a weak activator, so what will it do now? In the next reaction we want to put another CH3 group on the structure itself. So when you put another CH3 group, so how would you put another CH3 group? So CH3 AlCl3. So that creates so that forces the structure to create a structure on the ortho position and SO3H. So we want to remove the blocking agent now. So this is the blocking agent, we want to remove that. So that is by using dilute H2SO4. So when you use dilute H2SO4 now, both are structures that are going to be right next to each other. So CH3 and CH3. Next under oxidation, so that is using KMnO4. H2O and heat, and second by using H3O plus. So that creates the final structure with carbon double bond OH. That creates the final structure that you need. So these are all the substituents that you are using. So number one, we used Friedel-Crafts acylation and we created the group on the structure. Next we used a blocking agent and we blocked the para position. So we know that CH3 is an ortho para directing group, so you don't want it to be on para, so you block the para group. So next again we do alkylation, so it forced it to become ortho. Next you remove the blocking agent, finally oxidize the structure to finally create the final compound that you needed. So this is how you can create the structures. So now Let me give you some more practice so that you can try it on your own. So let me give you some practice so that you can do it on your own. So try these problems. So pause the video right here. So use the reaction diagram and use the moderate activator deactivator diagram. So the activator deactivator diagram, and try to find out whether you can synthesize these compounds. Start from benzene. Remember that we are always starting with benzene. So start from benzene and try if you can synthesize these compounds, right? So pause the video right here and try to solve these problems. So next let's talk about aromatic substitution, but this time nucleophilic. So nucleophilic aromatic substitution is a reaction where the benzene, it is attacked by a nucleophile. So the benzene, rather than acting as a nucleophile, is attacked by a nucleophile. So for example, let's say we have bromonitrobenzene. So this creates, in presence of NaOH, it creates the OH group. So the OH here acts as the nucleophile and the bromine acts as the leaving group. So what are the conditions that you require for this reaction to occur? So there are three main requirements that must be met for nucleophilic aromatic substitution, written as SNAR. Right, so the first one is the benzene must possess a strong electron withdrawing group. So the ring here must be electron poor. So next, the ring must possess a good leaving group. An example of this is a halogen group. And third, the leaving group must be positioned in ortho or para positions to the withdrawing group. So remember the idea here, the last point is important. The leaving group must be positioned in either ortho or para positions to the withdrawing group. Now, let's take a simple example of this. If the leaving group and the withdrawing group are meta, then there is no reaction that's going to observe. So remember that either they are going to be, should be ortho or para. So that's when the reaction will occur. If it is in meta positions, this one will reaction will not occur. So with the electron withdrawing group in the meta position, so it is unable to stabilize the Meissonimer complex intermediate. So the Meissonimer complex intermediate is a structure where the intermediate structure is the sigma complex basically. Now what happens during the nucleophilic attack is the OH minus attacks the carbon, and the carbon attaches itself. So once it creates the sigma complex, the sigma complex then creates such a manner where the chlorine tries to leave. So it uses the loss of leaving group, finally creating the structure that you need. So this is the example of nucleophilic aromatic substitution. So again, it looks similar to the actual electrophilic aromatic substitution, but the reaction here involves the loss of leaving groups on its own rather than having a proton attack. So the substituted phenol product in general is deprotonated under a basic hydroxide condition. So the acidic workup is necessary to create a neutral organic product, which means that when you start the reaction and you use excess NaOH, it creates an oxide group, and adding it to an acidic medium, that creates a alcohol group, an OH group on the benzene structure. So recall that SNER will not occur if the ring does not have a strong electron withdrawing group. So remember that it needs both an electron withdrawing group and an electron donating group. So it needs a strong electron withdrawing group. So here, if just chlorine is present, it cannot undergo the reaction. But you can do this reaction at very high temperatures, then a reaction will occur and create phenol. So this is one of the cases where one of the processes by which you can create phenol, but we do not use this more often because of high usage of temperature, and it's not easily done. Next, the reaction won't occur, so works even better and doesn't require high temperature if a strong reagent is used. One of the common reagents that is used is an amine group. So the first thing that we do here is we convert the chlorobenzene into an aminobenzene, and the regiochemical outcome means that this reaction does not proceed through the SN mechanism, so which means that this reaction will never undergo the SNR mechanism. So when you use an isotopically labeled substrate, it is clear that substitution is occurring at two different carbons. One is the carbon where the NH through is present, and the ortho position of that carbon. So the most common process that can be done is to create a benzyne intermediate where it loses the proton because of the amine being attacked. The amine gives away the proton and causes it to create a benzyne group. A benzyne is a triple bonded benzene. Remember that the triple bond is only on one position. So that we call this a benzyne intermediate. So the nucleophilic attack of NH2 here can take place at either carbon. So it can attack on the carbon that is on NH2, or it can be attacked on the ortho position as well. So which means that it eventually attacks either the position, the ortho position, or the position where the compound is itself. So we call this mechanism an elimination addition mechanism, similar to that of elimination mechanisms that we saw before. So in an elimination addition mechanism, first the compound undergoes proton transfer, where the OH minus group attacks the H and removes the proton, and the electron that you have here has the halogen leaves. Once the halogen leaves, it creates a benzene intermediate. The benzene intermediate is then attacked again by the OH minus group, so which creates the alcohol group, and then finally it undergoes proton transfer again, finally creates the phenol group again. So we call this the elimination addition mechanism. Next, so how do you identify the mechanism? So this is a flow chart that shows you how do you identify a mechanism. So the first thing we want to know is the reagent's electrophilic or nucleophilic. So when we know that the reagent that we are using is electrophilic, is whether it's electron withdrawing or electron donating. If the reagent is electron withdrawing, then it is nucleophilic. If it is electron donating, it's electrophilic. So now, once it's electrophilic, you are sure that it's an electrophilic aromatic substitution. If it is nucleophilic and all the three criteria for a nucleophilic aromatic substitution are satisfied, then it's nucleophilic aromatic substitution. If one of them is not satisfied, if none of them are satisfied, or any one of them are not satisfied, it can undergo the reaction by elimination addition mechanism. So this is how you can identify the mechanism. So this is a review of all the reactions that can occur. So if you want to, you can screenshot this and use it as reference. So I have also included it in the slide so that you can use it as the mechanism from the slides as well. So with this we end chapter 4 on aromatic substitution reactions. So let me give you some more examples so that you can practice it on your own. So pause the video right here and try to solve these problems. So if you are done with these, try these problems. Try this problem. So if you are done with the rest, try this problem. So I have included the answers in the lecture slides, so use the lecture slides as for your reference. So with that we end chapter 4.